Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see such a full classroom. I like to have full classrooms. Hello to the professionals. Quite a few of you are coming from this industry. Very challenging for me, but I like the challenge. Also, welcome to some colleague professors from other Singapore business schools and some students as well, past students I had and current students from Essec. Let me share with you a little bit the rule of the game tonight. It's something I have developed as a new concept, a masterclass. It's a sort of a teaser, really, on what we teach at Essec in luxury brand management. So I have developed a lot of courses, different courses on brand management, retailing, distribution, guest experience, services. And I have extracted bits and pieces, and I have compiled what will be, I hope for you, an interesting presentation, quite challenging. I have a big agenda for tonight. Normally I do this in China over 2 hours, but we have a very smart audience tonight, so I'm sure 1 hour and a half will be enough. But be prepared to back to class. So without further ado, I'm going to start with a quick introduction. Please come in. You know, I don't really like to come back to etymology, but I think there is one reason. I go back to the origin of the word luxury, which probably comes from the Latin luxus, because as you can see here, luxury brings a lot of positives, the pluses, and brings also minuses. Interestingly, if you look at the Chinese translation of luxury, exactly the same. You have on the left-hand side elements which convey positive things, you know, enjoyable, aesthetic based, but you have also the reverse trend, which is luxury can be expensive, can be about greediness, can be seen sometimes as a waste. So I think this is something sort of you who work in this industry know well. You cannot change the world. If you are working for a high jewelry brand, sometimes the most beautiful necklaces are sold to customers you are not really proud of having as customers, but you've got to accept this. This is the way the world goes. This is the way the luxury world goes. Okay, having just reminded you this, luxury, and you know, actually throughout the civilizations, you always have to keep this in mind. Luxury has been seen as something positive, which is linked with progress, beauty, aesthetics, and sometimes linked with something not so positive. Take the Roman Empire, for instance, you know. During the decadence of the Roman Empire, there was really something which was about the excess of luxury lifestyle. A few words about the business of luxury. Please come in. The business of luxury with a few, let me start with something which maybe will surprise you. We talk about luxury brands tonight. We talk a lot about luxury brands, but I would like to tell you that there's a lot of luxury products in this world which are not linked with luxury brands. And this is something we tend to forget because we live in a world of brands, of luxury brands. But just let's remember, you have luxury products. And hopefully, the luxury brands are still making luxury products. It's a joke. You know, of course, I worked in this industry and I was there at the very beginning, in the mid-80s, more or less at the time LVMH was created. And this was, at that time, very few graduate students would consider working in this industry. It was not really serious. It was not an industry, really. It was a bunch of family houses, not very professional for the most part. Of course, things have changed a lot. I will be very quick on that because some of you are familiar. But in 30 years, we have seen the birth of a real, serious industry sector. The size has been probably multiplied by 10. In 25 years. You don't see this in many sectors. How did it happen? Obviously, you had to make this industry much more professional than it was at the time. And I will go a little fast on that because a lot of you work in this industry. They will recognize these changes, you know. We have moved from the workshop to the factories and the supply chain. From the elite clients, you know, luxury was an island, everyone knew each other, to databases and CRM. The product was king, the brand is more important. Craftsmen, suppliers. When I worked with Pierre Balmain, we talked about our petites mains. We talked about our workshop. People knew, you know, Chanel, Balmain, Dior had the best or not the best. We identified the brand through the people who were making the product. Today, luxury brands talk about their customers, with a few exceptions, more than about their suppliers. In the fashion world, the couturier, the designer, the couturier initially, he was working with the scissors. He was creating, the prototype. Has been replaced by someone who is sometimes as important as the CEO, responsible for the image, chief image officer, chief creative officer. So those are a number of initiatives which show you how luxury brands are integrating this experiential lifestyle trend. Quickly, another trend is the return to absolute luxury. I will not spend too much time on that. You probably know there has been a lot of democratization of luxury. It has been very confusing with affordable luxury brands, aspirational luxury brands. Third trend, luxury consumers' values are shifting. I mean, this presentation is, of course, partially based for China. Fourth trend, very well known, especially I'm here in Asia today. So to take away on this first part, why, at the end of the day, is this industry so resilient? Now, I would like to take a little bit of distance with these different comments. First of all, it's an industry, there is one word you should remember, that caters to dream and knows how to create dreams. Second, where does the dream come from? I will quickly go through that. Of course, you need to come to Essec if you want to know more, but because of the cultural foundation. Some people say heritage, but I mean, for me, heritage, a lot of brands have heritage in a way. Levi's has a great heritage, Coca-Cola has a heritage, but luxury brands, they have more than just a long history. They have some deep cultural foundations, which is where the dream comes from. We will see that in a few minutes. And of course, the marketing elements. I told you at the beginning, we are in a world of brands. They have learned, and they do it very well now, the art of selling dreams, which is the art of branding. A quick initiation to this art of selling dreams, because this is, of course, the core of what we teach here. The luxury brand management foundations. Another way to describe it, with my own words, would be to say how to manage the dream and the desirability factor throughout, of course, evolving consumer cultures. Different and evolving consumer cultures. Couple of words. Maybe the most important is this one, uniqueness. Uniqueness. When I was working for Pierre Balmain, I was working with Eric Mortensen, who was the designer. He had been working with Pierre Balmain, he had been his partner. And I asked him, I was very young CEO, and I asked him, what about the other designers? How do you compare yourselves? He said, we don't compare ourselves. We are all unique. Second, strong and consistent brand DNA and codes. I cannot go too far on that, but basically the example of Vuitton, which is very well known, travel, the art of journeys. This is really important. Luxury brands are not here to sell anything to anyone. The best way for them to remain unique is to remain loyal to what they stand for, which is called brand identity, but DNA is more specific. Identity, it's for Coca-Cola, they have an identity. Louis Vuitton, they have a DNA. This is also important to express their uniqueness. It's linked with the founders, it's linked with the culture, it's linked maybe with the period when they were born. Okay? And DNA dictates a lot of things. If you know well your DNA, dictates the brand extension, dictates maybe the kind of communication, the kind of ambassadors is good for your brand, the kind of sports you can or you should sponsor. And the codes, luxury products obviously are about beauty, aesthetics. So the codes is the visual expression of the DNA. All these elements which are so important when you run a luxury brand. It can be a color code, can be an iconic product, can be a logo. And you work very hard to protect and maintain consistent codes. I will do a very small exercise with you now about this, about a brand that more or less you all know, I'm sure. At least you have some ideas about this brand, right? Hermès. Very quickly. Who can, let's start with the most difficult, because codes, in a way, is easier. Just I want to make this exercise to make you understand the difference between the DNA and the codes. DNA, the universe of Hermès, the culture of Hermès. It's actually a complex culture. It's a complex brand, in fact. But what should you know if you know a little bit Hermès? What is Hermès all about? Horse riding. It's about equestrian culture. Very good. Very good. We're starting well. Good class. Now, the other elements of the DNA may be more complicated. Codes. I'm sure you will understand very quickly. What are the codes of Hermès? H. 1. Huh? The horse can be a code. Which color? Orange. What does it come together with? The ribbon, which color? Brown, you know? It's so easy. It looks easy. Allez, we don't have too much time. Orange box, brown ribbon, the carré, of course, the carré Hermès, French word, everyone knows, everywhere. The H, the horse, the calèche, the logo, you forgot this one, so obvious. The hand, the feet, because how do you run a horse? With your feet and with your hand. You know what was the first product created by Hermès? I hope you would say saddle. It's good, but it's not enough. It was the second one. The first product? Yes. Allez, I show you everything and then we discuss. Sorry, harness. Harness. So you know, harness, saddles, the best friend of Hermès is the horse. The horse was the first animal you could travel with at the end of the 19th century. Of course, you need your hand and your feet. So everything is so logical. Then other elements of the DNA of Hermès, a little bit more complex, but I'm happy you found immediately the equestrian culture. Actually, it's travel, but not in the same way as Louis Vuitton. It's more about the universality of beauty. Hermès is often perceived as a very French brand, the French art de vivre, but in fact it's not. Hermès, they like to find beauty wherever beauty can be found. Beauty can be found in nature. Nature is the original source of beauty. And this beauty is universal. So the travel of Hermès is more travel throughout cultures. Okay? And this beauty is, of course, this nature is beautiful. And then, which is a little bit less well known, Hermès does not, they don't take themselves so seriously. They like to laugh at themselves. They are quite unconventional. Third, managing, of course, the heritage, managing the cultural foundations. This is where the dream comes from. Let me remind you 2 or 3 things, a very quick journey through time. We have to pay tribute to Louis XIV and to Colbert, which is why there is a Comité Colbert, because probably otherwise I wouldn't be here tonight, and France would not be so much associated with luxury. Luxury started to be codified in France with Versailles, with Louis XIV, and Colbert understood that protecting this know-how would be good for the country. So this is where, you know, the affinity, cultural affinity of France with luxury sort of started. But then a couple of interesting things happened, you know. Of course, the revolution, emergence of middle classes, and the other revolution, the industrial revolution. That is very key, because a lot of brands, you know that you admire, they were born in that period. And it was a fascinating time. Personally, if I could choose, I would have lived around 1900. A lot of brands were nurtured and also participated in this evolution. The development of tourism. We are here in Singapore, it's a great case, you know, but everywhere in Asia, you have the first luxury hotels created at that time. But also, you know, the development of trade. At that time, this international trade was, of course, benefiting primarily Europe. The brands that were developing at that time, take Cartier. Cartier, you know, of course, yes, they have been innovative. They learned how to use platinum. They seduced the Maharaja to use platinum setting to redo the most expensive necklace. And then you had the development of leisure. You know, all these things happened, I'm sorry to say that, but they happened in Europe primarily, then in the States. You cannot take away from Burberry, for instance, you know, the fact that with their waterproof trench coats, they equipped not only the British Army, but they equipped all the soldiers. And the first people in the UK which were skiing, they were wearing this waterproof clothes from Burberry. And the gentleman who was fishing or hunting, he was wearing his Burberry. Again, generations of people have been nourished by this. And maybe I kept the best for the end. The social-cultural evolutions, these are the most important. All these things that happened again between the beginning of the 20th century and not so long ago. Women's liberation, women's empowerment, sexual liberation, equal rights movement. A lot of designers, which are today the brands you admire, they were born, they participated, they were nourished by this period. Chanel, Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, Armani, Ralph Lauren, if we move a little bit along, you know. Of course, when you see these pictures, and this is something you all know, it explains to you also the incredible power of Chanel, because no one will ever liberate women again. It has been done by these women. At least that's what the story says. But even Apple, which is not a traditional luxury brand, but which somehow conveys a lot of characteristics of luxury brands. Innovative design, the fact that you all accept to pay a premium to buy an Apple. The takeaway on this, because I have learned to always give a takeaway, being now a professor, I think, yes, you have it all here. Luxury brands have strong cultural foundation for the most part, which is where the dream factor comes from. So then the branding, of course, help them create, enhance, refresh the dream constantly. They use for this their consistent DNA and codes. They have a signature. They have a creative audacity. You know, remember Lexus. At the beginning, Lexus was coming from Toyota. They were creating a Me Too product. A lot of connoisseurs would not, okay, it was a good deal, Lexus, but these cars had no creative design. They were just Me Too products. Luxury is about creative audacity. Today, Lexus has gained some confidence, so I think they have created a certain signature. Took time. And a marketing of the offer, which is linked with this signature. Keep this in mind because we will talk in a few seconds about digital. And that's important to remember. Luxury brands are used to tell you what they think is good. I mean, not for everyone, but you know, they are the tastemakers. They are the tastemakers. They are the gatekeepers of taste. And their discourse is really a top-down discourse so far. And they are not here to please everyone. When you hear me, I'm sure you think it seems so easy. It seems so easy. It's not. It's not. I have an entire course dedicated to just this point, how to combine image and business, because this is central. Whenever you look at luxury brands doing retail, whenever you look at luxury brand doing product or brand extensions, it's always about how to combine image which is basically remaining true to their DNA, remaining exclusive, and business. And this is not easy. It is not easy. I will demonstrate it to you with a couple of charts, which I have borrowed from Interbrand. You know Interbrand? This consultancy. They value the brand equity using a lot of factors about the cash flow, discounted cash flows and everything. We can trust them, okay? So these charts, they just remind us of this. They just remind us that, you know, balancing image and business, balancing prestige and accessibility, desires and needs, tradition and modernity. Now, I had promised you I would also talk to you about digital, because it's obviously a very interesting moment for everyone, because I think like we had the transport revolution, the new lifestyles, I think internet is the next one, the next revolution, and we are in the middle of it. So obviously it's a fascinating topic. Also fascinating because what I'm going to share with you tonight is totally different from what I would have presented 1 year ago. And in 6 months, probably I will have changed a lot of slides. You have to be humble when you talk about digital. For sure, today, things have changed a lot. I mean, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, luxury brands were trying to find reasons why they should not go digital in the same way as the others. I think now you don't hear this too much. Okay, they have some reasons for not opening maybe e-commerce stores at the moment, but globally, they have changed their mind. What we have seen in the past 2 years is a lot of investment in this direction. First, very funny, they have become their own media. Yes, they are producing movies now. Have you seen Cartier movie? It was a huge investment, broadcasted prime time in many televisions. They are embracing digital marketing, and e-commerce is developing. That's, of course, something totally new. So the real question is, luxury brands are spending fortunes to refresh the dream factor, to be seen as exclusive in the real world. Of course, at the minimum, they should be consistent online. So what they are doing online should be equally exclusive. That's one condition. So consistency, I think, is a big thing. It's not impossible, but it's something to keep in mind. I like to read different press reviews, and there is a lot to learn still from the US in that respect, where they are often the most advanced, with China picking up. It's a huge opportunity for them to enhance their DNA, to play their codes online and to be consistent, as long as they remain in control of the content. This is not enough. And my presentation is partially focused on China, and it's very good, because China is a big challenge for luxury brand in that respect. It is not enough, even to be on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Weibo. It is not enough, believe me. I will show you. So let's talk a little bit about social media. It's a big mess. The point is, how do you convert this into business? This is what I call social commerce. How to go from social media to social commerce. Very recently, another digital agency gave a sort of solution, which I found interesting, at least in theory. You should not start from the brand perspective. You should try to find a way to go where your customers are. Social media is about people who have the same interests, sharing their opinions. So you should find a way to shift emphasis on what you have to say to what the customers are interested in. And then at some point, you know, you can late the social input around your product, if they have interest in one of your products, develop. And only then you can, in a subtle way, try to turn this into some kind of shoppable activity. It's an interesting program, in theory, how to do it. But the same person actually said something I found very interesting. He said, more and more, social media is not about making friends. It's about creating communities of people who have the same interests, potentially the same tastes. And we discuss about our common tastes, and we gain confidence that maybe we are right in liking or not liking a brand. So what they are saying is, what is currently happening is the barriers, the traditional gatekeepers of trend and the taste are falling. They are falling. It's getting out of the control of the brands. Because today, who are the gatekeepers of taste? They are these communities. Those people who are posting the same products they like, you know, on Pinterest, for instance. Or in China, the people who are using the new media, Weixin, WeChat, to share with all their friends the pictures of the product they bought and the ones they liked. So the question is, do luxury brands still want to remain the gatekeepers of taste? Or do they want to maybe take the risk to make social media part of their DNA? And what does that mean? In China, you know, the current revolution is the smartphone. It's unbelievable. I am in China today because my new wife is Chinese. 2 years ago, when I followed her and I moved to Beijing, I had to fight with her because she's an entrepreneur. Every evening she was on her computer. But when she was in the room, at least the computer was away. I have seen the change. Really, I have seen it happening in 18 months. No more computer. She hardly reads her emails. She is with her smartphone all the time. And this is my biggest competitor because the smartphone goes into the bed. He's below the pillow. Because, you know, there is a special sound. If the message is important coming from a certain person, she will wake up and she will listen to it. The impact of the brand discourse, let's be realistic, in China is not going to be very important. And the more you are successful, the less people will believe you. It's the paradox. Second, you know, because of that, think, it is so logical. Chinese do not trust their government. They do not trust the businessmen. They do not trust what the brands are saying. They only trust what their peers are saying. It's the only thing they can trust. That shows you to which extent social media will be in China the next big thing. Mobile social media has an incredible future in China for the reasons I mentioned, and because Chinese people are so practical. They have found out before anyone else the convenience of this small device. So to reach their hearts, even more than the digital agency said before, brands will have to find a way to work differently, to try and be part of the conversation, not try to moderate the conversation, because the people will never follow them. Last but not least, e-commerce. Of course, this is the end of it. This is, you know, the objective. In China, it is the same, you know, for different reasons. Again, Chinese people will ultimately be the biggest buyers online. Actually, they are almost already. A lot of people are buying online. All my friends are buying online in China, all my wife's friends. But they are only buying cheap products. And you know why? The main reason is because they don't trust what is being proposed. Again, we go back to the same thing. So when you buy $28, even if it's a fake product, you don't take too big a risk. So for the moment, you know, it's a huge business, except that because of the lack of trust and the counterfeits, it's limited to very cheap products. But it will change. It will change very, very quickly. Why? Because today you have a lot of Western, reliable players coming to China. And these people can be trusted. Like all my Chinese friends tell me, if it's a Western website, I will trust them. If it's a Chinese website, I will not trust them, sorry. I say, you say it, huh? Omni retail channel, that's my last part. It will be a lot shorter. I think today the big thing is real m-commerce. You know, I am working a lot on retail. I come from a family of retailers. I have been raised with one principle. In retail, it's all about location and foot traffic. And I think I have to recognize that this maybe will not be true in the future. Because what mobile commerce is doing is changing not only how retail operates, but how consumers purchase. And potentially, anywhere, anytime, you can buy. And believe me, again, looking at China, where people are so quick, they have no time to lose. They want to access the brand they want from their mobile phone, anytime, anywhere. It's breaking down all the traditional business barriers. We are still living in a world of physical retail, of course. Orchard Road, still, it's important to be there. But potentially, you know, what's happening is maybe a historical moment. Mobile commerce is changing this, totally changing this. It's quite scary. Retail will be no more about location and foot traffic. What are the threats? You know, I have a financial background, didn't tell you. So I know what means goodwill and intangible assets. In the balance sheets of a lot of luxury brands, you have hundreds of millions of intangible assets, the goodwill. So if tomorrow the value of real estate on Champs-Élysées or on Orchard Road is going down, a lot of luxury brands will take a strong beating. So you know, very simple. First of all, no one likes to believe that the retail investment could be depreciated. That's the first thing. Second, you know, for a lot of strong brands, today retail is a protection because the cost of retail is such that it's a barrier for the smaller brands. I mean, in China, it's very simple. In the luxury malls, only one floor is good, is the first floor. You have space for maximum 15, 20 brands. These 15, 20 brands, in fact, there are maybe 30, they control the market. So if the importance of physical retail starts to reduce, they are losing a huge competitive advantage. Also, you know, it means potentially multi-channel. It means you have to go back to accept to sell your products through other channels. And then, you know, if you develop just an omni-retail channel within your stores, you have a lack of competitive advantage compared to what guys like Neiman Marcus are doing, for instance, because they are much more advanced in this. So there are a couple of concerns for luxury brands. But, you know, I have been thinking a lot about this. Obviously, retail today, as we speak, physical retail, is key. Everyone will agree. Those of you working in this industry will agree. Retail is key because retail it's a channel. It's also a communication tool. It's also about branding. It's key. We agree. But brick and mortar retail is increasingly challenging for most luxury brands. Alors maybe the top 10 brands, they can still afford to make this kind of investment. But for how long? For how long? Are the current level of investments, apart from the fact that only a few brands can afford this level of investment, is it, and also in traditional PR, I mean these incredible events, how long will it be sustainable financially? You know, it's not a secret that even if they make big profits, luxury brands have a lot of pressure on their retail operations. Two kinds of pressure, and I will just finish with this. Managing cost efficiency of retail, more and more important. And second, managing the efficiency of the branding part of retail. Let me share with you what I want to say here. And then you can think about it and think everything omni-retail channel could help, could bring to these brands which are struggling here. Because you know, managing cost efficiency, you have at least 4 dimensions to it. One is real estate, number of point of sale, foot traffic capture, the fact that there is not enough space available, good space available, how to cope with that, always more expensive. Inventory management, all the brands are going lifestyle. They have more and more product categories. how far can we go in increasing the size of the store? Maybe Louis Vuitton can do it. But even Louis Vuitton, at some point, they will have to look at the return on investment. Storage space. Storage space. When you rent a store on Orchard Road, the storage space is very expensive. Slow-moving inventory. Merchandising management. You know, all these people who are working so hard to make sure you have the right product in the right physical place at the right time for the right customer. Think about omni-retail. And supply chain management, all these stock transfers that you have to do, very costly. Importation cost in countries like China. If you could only import the products you know you're going to sell, would be much easier. Warehousing costs. So you know, if you look at this and you think of what omni-retail channel can bring you, there's obviously a lot of pressure that will come ultimately from the bottom line. And about retail branding, you know, what means retail for luxury brands? It's about trying to deal with this paradox, to have the doors wide open to the masses, yet be able to deal with the VIPs. It's about being able to attract, hire, and to keep high net worth individual. It's about all this. And this is very costly in traditional retail. You know, doing this in a physical store puts pressure on staff headcount, pressure on space. You need to create VIP rooms. It's very expensive. If you can have a VIP room online, it would be a lot cheaper. Pressure on traditional PR event and marketing. What about an online event? I mean, there's a lot of solutions that will probably be, again, imposed by the bottom line. All the brands would like to know their customers better. Doing it through the traditional stores is not enough. Same thing. So I think, you know, omni-retail channel, some of the elements, it's still nascent, can help luxury brands deal with this internal cost efficiency and efficiency of the retail branding part, especially the smaller brands. And actually, when my students study in class, you know, how advanced some of these brands are. The most advanced are the young, new American fashion brands, because they have been nourished in a culture which is already an omni-retail channel culture. And they cannot invest as the big brands. Or maybe some brands which have made a decision, which is courageous, to make digital part of their DNA.